Hello and welcome everyone. We are going to talk today about advertising laws and ethics. Like any other fields, we have laws and ethics even for advertising. But before that, let us talk about why laws. Why do we need laws? So laws are actually required to protect the individuals as well as groups' rights to maintain standard, and in some cases it is also required to resolve the disputes, because when there are business, there are people around, there are some kind of relationship going on, some disputes are bound to happen, and we need to set standards also for the society, for our system, for our businesses, for everything. So all types of fields need such kind of legal system, and advertising is no exception. So advertising also requires laws. It also requires certain kind of system to safeguard it. But unlike other Western countries, we don't have a specific set of laws created in India, especially to govern the advertising business and practices. We don't have particular advertising laws here in India. So there are some existing laws to govern print media in India, and they are also applicable to advertisement. So there are certain laws which are there to regulate print media, as well as some laws which are there to regulate electronic media, and they are equally applicable on advertisement as well. So first of them, let us talk about laws related to dissemination of obscene matter, because there are certain material which could be obscene for the society, for the people, and there are some laws which deal with this obscenity. There are two sections, 292 and 93 of Indian Penal Code, IPC 1860, which prevents the dissemination of any obscene matter through any kind of media, especially for print media. There is also Indian Post Office Act 1898, which keeps a strong control over the dissemination of obscene matters through post. So you cannot send even obscene matters through post. So it has to be checked, and there is a law in order where it says that even by post you cannot send any obscene material to anyone. In this sequence, there is one more act, the Customs Act 1962, which also keeps check on import on any obscene material that and allows sale of such material as well as detention of the people associated. So we have three different sections, we have 3 or 4 different kinds of acts which are actually dealing with dissemination of obscene material. Sections 292 to 293 of Indian Penal Code, Indian Post Office Act 1898, and the Customs Act 1962. But here I would like to raise this point that what is obscenity? Because obscenity also keeps changing, and the meaning and concept of obscenity changes with the society and culture. Okay, for one culture, what may be obscene might not be obscene for the different culture. So there, the complete conception of obscenity is a problematic thing. But we will talk about it later. But I just wanted to raise that what could be obscenity and what could not be obscenity. It depends upon the society and culture. Then we have the Young Person Harmful Publication Act 1956. This act is also very important because this law is there to protect the young and adolescents from getting exposed to any harmful publication. And we know that how vulnerable young and adolescents people are. So this law, in particularly harmful related to harmful publication, is there to safeguard these people. So this act makes it illegal to disseminate those publications which might not be suitable for or harmful for young persons under the age of 20 years. Here in picture, you see that there is an ad where this young person is being offered this cigarette packet. Here in second ad, it is saying that it is creativity, and just to stir this creativity, whether this bottle is not good for youngsters. So in the age of internet, however, it is very difficult to prevent the young adolescents from getting exposed to harmful or objectionable content. But at least this act is there to just protect them from any published matter which is harmful, which might be harmful for them. But obviously on social media and on internet, there is no law which can actually prevent any kind of dissemination of content there. And in that case, it becomes really problematic. And sometimes it looks like these laws, which are already there, they are redundant in today's internet-driven world. Then we have also this indecent representation of women, Prohibition Act 1986. Obviously, women are also very vulnerable part of the society. So there are laws not only to protect young population, but also to safeguard the decency of women because they are very vulnerable in our social system. So according to the Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986, it prevents the indecent portrayal of women across all types of media, be it print media, television media, advertising or films. Does advertising also comes in under the purview of this act, and anybody wants to represent women in an indecent way, even through advertising, they could be booked under this act. This act tries to safeguard the depiction of women in derogatory manner. However, it is very difficult to justify what is derogatory or obscene because these concepts vary according to the society and culture. Just like the law related to obscenity, here also, what is derogatory, what is obscene, what is not accepted in the society, it depends upon the society, it depends upon the culture. Where some kind of representation are accepted in Western culture, the same representation of women might not be accepted in our culture, in our society. So for us, it might be obscene. For us, it might not be a decent representation of women. But for some other society and culture, it can be. So here also, there is this problem of interpretation, there is problem of subjectivity. Then we have this Emblems and Names Prevention of Improper Use Act 1950. So this act tried to safeguard the misuse of sensitive names and emblems. We have many people many big politicians in our country. There are some emblems. We feel proud of some kind of our own emblems and our own signs and our own things which are very much important, like Asok Chakra, like Satyamev Jayate. So we need to protect them from being misused because they are symbols of our not only pride, but government and working systems. So in case any private company or any other organization is willing to use the picture, name or emblem of any important dignitary or ministry for promotion of its interest, it needs to take permission. No private company can use the picture of a prime minister or president or the picture of our national flag or our Asok Chakra anywhere without any permission. Especially they need to take advance permission before publishing pictures of president and prime minister or before using any national emblem. So any private company must be careful about this because if they are doing it without taking prior permission, they can be booked under this act. The Prevention of Insults of the National Honor Act 1971. This is also one very important act because we know that our national flag and our constitutions are symbols of our national pride and honor. We feel very much proud and we are very sensitive towards our national honor and our national pride. And these are symbols for that. So Prevention of Insults of the National Honor Act 1971 tries to safeguard this national honor by preventing them from any type of disrespect and contempt. So this act is especially designed so that our honor, our pride, which is invested in these symbols and these emblems, should be protected. There have been few incidents where some fashion designer used national flag in their design, and they were booked under this act for contempt of national honor. We also have this Indian Penal Code 1860. Um, this act was introduced in order to discourage the illegal lottery system, and it does not allow any publication related to unauthorized lotteries. Thus, printed advertisement of such matters are also prohibited under this act. So lottery system which are not licensed, which are not allowed, unauthorized, they are completely discouraged by this Indian Penal Code 1860. Complementing this act, there is also Indian Post Office Act 1898, which does not allow dissemination of published matter related to unauthorized lotteries by post. Printed advertisements also fall under the ambit of this act. So even if dissemination of published matter or unauthorized lotteries are there, this act tries to prohibit it. Then we have Drugs and Magic Remedies, Objects Naval Advertising Act 1954. We know that in our country there is a complete parallel market of magic remedies. There are magic pills, there are magic remedies of everything, all kinds of diseases in India which mislead the people and can even worsen their condition. In some cases, people even do not understand that these kind of without any degree kind of, and these magic remedies, sometimes they can harm themselves. But this is happening and the situation is worsening, and the situation is actually very bad in some kind of small towns and small rural areas. Thus, there is this Drugs and Magic Remedies Objectionable Advertisement Act 1954, which tries to protect people from falling into the trap of such magic remedies by preventing their advertisement. So, if their advertisement would be prevented and their promotion would be prevented, then certainly there could be the people who are actually getting attracted by this information and going to these kind of magic remedies would also be stopped, and they might not fall into the trap of magic remedies. So if there is any advertisement of any product or service for magic remedy or some medical conditions, it can be booked under this act. However, there is no dearth of such claims even on internet, which is difficult to control because they do not fall into the ambit of this act. So the Drugs and Magic Remedies Act can actually work upon printed advertisement or other advertisement like on wall advertisement and other things, but it cannot work upon the internet advertisement. And today we know that internet is full of such kind of misleading ads and such kind of very dangerous ads which can actually harm people. So in that case, the value of this act sometimes get completely diminished because it cannot work upon the internet advertisement. We have this some example here of such kind of magic remedy advertisement that it says that lose 30 plus pound weight without dieting. So such advertisement are so many in number in all media, across all media. Similarly, we have Indian Penal Code 1860. It says that the use of national symbols by election candidates just to appeal the voters is prohibited. Why? Because we know that during elections, all the candidates, they want to appeal to the nationality, feeling of nationality of the people, and they also want to just make them believe that they are the true son of the soil. So in that case, they might be tempted to use national symbols like our flag, our Ashok Chakra, and so these kind of symbols are actually used in advertisement. Sometimes it has been used in the advertisement of candidates during elections. But this kind of use of these symbols during election can invite some kind of action under this act. So it is very important for the ad agencies and PR campaign designers to keep this in mind, because nowadays all elections are supported by campaigners. So we know that there are PR companies involved, there are advertising agencies involved during elections. And if by mistake they are using these symbols, these national symbols in the election campaign, they can be booked under this law. We have this Prize Competition Act 1955. This act prevents any publication related to unauthorized prize competitions. In connections to this act, there is another act called the Prize Chits and Money Circulation Schemes Banning Act 1978, which prohibits any publication related to chits and money circulation schemes. All these acts are in the best interest of those people who get cheated by these unauthorized competitions and schemes. We know that there have been so many chit scams and so many prize money scams. So in that case, these acts will actually kind of protect and safeguard those people, those innocent people who might fall into the trap of these kind of companies. We can also have a quick glance at the pioneers of advertisement related laws in the world, and the credit to introduce advertisement related laws goes to Western countries like Canada and USA. And it is that some of the laws, obviously, they were initially meant to regulate competition, which was getting fierce due to increasing industrialization in these countries. So industrialization has brought a lot of things. Even we say that industrialization has brought many kind of even advertising, and not only advertising but even laws related to advertising is also product of this industrialization process, because it allowed many companies to come up, and when these companies came up, there was a lot of competition, and this competition led to the advertisement process, because they knew that they need to advertise, they need to tell to the people that why and how they should buy their product. And if there is so much competition and advertising is done by each and every company, each and every industry, there has to be some kind of conflict. And in that case, the advertisement related laws were bound to emerge. So there is a clear picture that why after industrialization in 19th century, these countries came up with advertisement related laws. So after them, many other countries also followed the trend and introduced the antitrust laws to protect the healthy competition, because it was very much needed. Whenever there is a competition in the market, these kind of laws must be there in order to protect not only the business but also in order to avoid any kind of dispute. So there are three practices which are responsible to enact the Uniform Deceptive Trade Practice Act in US, and these are all related to misleading advertisement. These are called misleading advertisement, and these practices were palming off, product disparagement, and bait and switch advertisement. Many times there is a deliberate attempt by an advertiser to misguide public by creating an impression that the product shown is offered by its competitor. We have many examples of resemblance of some cheaper brands with that of a reputed one. These are clear cases of palming off. So we have seen in India also, we have seen so many examples when you have this t-shirt from Reebok, but at the footpath you can find similar, means it is not the same t-shirt, but it is also written with the same pattern. It is written not Reebok but Rebuke. It is REEBUK. So we have so many such kind of, I would say that such kind of products available in our Indian market, which are copies of the branded things, branded goods. So and Indian market is flooded of these things. So this is called palming off. We have designers copies of dresses available in local market. So all of us know and we have come across these kind of practices, and this is called palming off. There are examples of deliberate attempt by advertisers to comment negatively about the competitor's brand. Such practices fall under a category of disparagement. So it happens even in India. We have seen many cases of disparagement when one brand actually started commenting directly on its competitor. We have already talked about Ariel and Surf Excel, the scuffle between these two. The competition became so bad and they started commenting upon each other. We have in case of salt also, we have seen certain kind of direct commenting on the competitor's brand. Similarly, we have even in case of toothpaste, these kind of competition went. We have seen that how in television and other media, these competing brands are actually commenting upon each other. This is called disparagement. Then there are some practices where the advertisement of certain product and services are there, but at the time of purchase, it is found that the product which was advertised was replaced by a substitute. Such cases are called bait and switch. Means you are showing something else, but when the consumer is going to buy that, they found that that product does not exist and there is a substitute instead of that product. So this is called bait and switch. And just as I explained, India market is also flooded with such kind of example. We have so many examples of these kind of palming off, disparagement, and bait and switch kind of advertisement. So all such misleading advertisement already there in India, and there was Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act 1969 to keep a check on such ads, but later this act was abolished. And the Competition Act 2000 was introduced, which is also said to be good enough to protect a healthy competitive environment as well as the interest of the consumers. However, there are some people who say that Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, which is also called MRTP Act, which it was much simpler, easy to use, but this Competition Act is a little bit complex. So many people do not like so much Competition Act, but right now only this act is functioning. We can just talk about a few case studies, like case study of Hamdard Dawakhana versus Union of India case 1960. We know that we have freedom of speech and expression under the article of 19A. And we also know that we have restriction on the freedom of speech and reasonable restriction on the freedom of speech and expression under the article 19B. So there are many times there is a contradiction whether something which is actually in public domain and which is expressed, is it under the protected under the freedom of speech and expression, or it comes under the reasonable restriction. So on that matter, there was a case between Hamdard Dawakhana versus Union of India case, in which Supreme Court said in 1960 that the freedom of speech and expression depends upon what you are advertising, your product. It depends upon your product, not what you are telling about it. Okay, so many a times your product, whether it is beneficial for the society or not, on that it depends that how much you can express about it. So that was one very important case. But later in 1995, Tata Press versus the MTNL case, court says that the commercial speech should not be restricted, because commercial speech is not always in the favor of the advertiser, but sometimes it is in the interest of the consumers as well. As a consumer, I might be interested in knowing what are my companies and what are the brands are there to offer. Okay, so that is what why court said that commercial speech should not be restricted. Speech should be right of everyone, even businessmen, because sometimes or many times it is in the interest of the consumers also, that they know about the product, they know about the services. So that was also one landmark decision. And then we have this case of Pepsodent versus Colgate, 102% better case, where the Pepsodent directly claimed that it is 102% better than Colgate. So that was a clear case of disparagement. Now let us talk about ethics. What is ethics? What we feel, what kind of value we actually have in ourselves, and how do we behave, how do we responsible, how much we are responsible towards other people. This is what ethics is, our values, our system. But there are certain professional ethics as well. So with safeguard of rights by laws, there must be self-regulation in order to discharge responsibilities with care. So such responsible discharge of duties are generally called ethics. Ethics can be self-practicing depending upon our value system, and sometimes can be followed because of compulsions of professional code of conduct. So all professions in this society, in this world, actually follow certain kind of professional ethics. And these professional ethics is important, and code of conduct is important, because not all of us in the society come up with a very strong ethical values. We might have some shaky, some kind of different kind of experiences, and our ethical values might not be so much strong. But if there is a professional code of conduct, we are compelled to behave in such a way. But advertising and ethics, it's a very, very important topic, because there is a lot of debate, there is a lot of criticizing of ethics in advertising, because there are many critics who say that ethics and advertising cannot go hand in hand with each other, because advertising ultimately, if they are paying paid messages just to pursue people to come and buy things. So when the messages are paid, there is a complete control over the message, and advertisers can actually manipulate with the messages whenever and whatever form they want to. So that is why the critic do not agree with the ethics of advertisement. They say that advertisement cannot be ethical. So there is a huge contradiction between it. And also some people say that it is a glamorized world. It is the advertising world actually depend upon the buying capacity of the people. So it cannot be pro society, it cannot be pro poor, it cannot be pro marginalized people. So ethics has nothing to do with advertising. So there is a lot of critical and contradictory views about advertising and ethics. But at the same time, advertising industry has come up with its own body, which is called Advertising Standard Council of India, and it is working perfectly well for making sure that there is no ethical violation in advertising industry. So just like the self-regulatory bodies for various media and content, advertising industry also has a professional body called Advertising Standard Council of India. So we have ASCI, we call it ASCI, and we have ASCI, which consists of industry people and some representatives from different walks of lives as people's representatives. So it is completely that there is a complete balanced representation of all people in ASCI. Then role of Advertising Standard Council of India, we need to understand that ASCI provides a professional guidelines to advertising practitioners. Although it is not a legal body, there are many examples where the advertising industry followed ASCI's instructions and guidelines. In case of complaints against any company also, there are many stances where the suggestions and advices of ASCI were accepted by both complainants and accused parties. So we cannot say that without having a legal power, ASCII is not functioning. ASCII is functioning, and we have seen that in many cases it has done some good job and people have accepted it. So ASCII has certain provisions which it promotes as well in order to maintain the confidence and trust of the people into advertising. ASCII always tries to encourage the audiences to complain against any advertisement which they do not deem fit to be appropriate enough, and it makes sure that complaints must be dealt fairly, objectively, and promptly. So this is one thing which ASCII always try to encourage the audiences, and that is why these kind of ads which are shown in the picture, that you can always complain if you do not agree with any ad, and if you find anything wrong with any kind of advertisement with ASCII. And they have also released a lot of pamphlets and a lot of flow charts that how can they the people can lodge a complaint easily. So it has developed a mechanism to deal with the complaints impartially by constituting a consumer complaints committee. And this committee hears both point of views, consumers as well as advertisers, and reaches to a conclusion in the form of decision, which is communicated to the concerned party as soon as possible. So ASCII has developed this kind of mechanism to help people who feel that advertisement cannot be always overpowering to the audiences. So in order to ascertain self-regulation by advertisers, ASCII needs them to follow some principles, which are, first of them is ads should not only be truthful, but also fair to the consumers, as well as competitive brands. So there are certain professional ethics which advertisements should follow. They should be fair not only to their consumers, but also they should be fair towards their competitive brands, and also they should be truthful. They should not just speak any lie. It should be socially and culturally acceptable and should not hurt or offend anyone's feeling by compromising on decency and propriety, which is very important in our society, because we are very sensitive people and we get always offended if we find anything against our culture and our values. It should not promote the products in such a way that it is dangerous or harmful for society and people, especially vulnerable section of society like children, women, and elderly people. And these people who are most affected by any kind of dangerous or harmful advertisement in society. There are some important points which are also called ASCII's code of conduct, and these are: advertising should not only designed in accordance with laws, but also it must consider the religious, cultural, moral sentiments of the people whom it is targeting. So any advertisement should not offend or disrespect any profession. So it must understand the values, inherent values in the society, and it should not try to anyhow damage those values. Advertising should not mislead people by tampering facts or by omitting or concealing the implications or results of the products. If any product or any advertisement is misleading, or it is not telling the complete truth, or actually hiding something very important factor, it is not acceptable by ASCII or any ethical code of conduct. It should not exaggerate so much that it looks unbelievable, or should make so much tall claims which brings utter disappointment to people to the level that they felt cheated. Sometimes some advertisements do that. They claim so big and they say such a great lies that people out of those lies and believing on those lies, people go and buy that thing. And when they use it, they find that there has been nothing, change has happened as per the claim, as per the exaggeration. Okay, so that in that way, what happens that the consumers feel cheated. It should not happen according to the ASCII code of conduct. The advertisement which directly compare with the competitor's product is in disparaging manner will not be allowed according to ASCII, because if you are commenting or degrading any competitor's brand, it is against the professional ethics. Advertisers must avoid indecent, vulgar, offensive, suggestive, or repulsive content or treatment to the advertising messages, because these are not tolerated in our society. It is not according to our cultural value. Any indecent, vulgar, or offensive content as well as treatment will not be accepted. Advertisements should never claim to refund the payment in case of not satisfactory product. This should also not be practiced. Then advertisers should never claim to cure any disease specified in Schedule J by any drug or medicine. So in Schedule J, there are very many sensitive diseases are there. So no advertisement should claim for any drug that it can actually perfectly cure these diseases, which are so much sensitive and scheduled in and written in Schedule J. Advertisement, according to ASCII, advertisers must also take care of the medium where they are placing the ads, because we know that some mediums or platforms are known for promoting pleasurized content. We know that some platforms are known for vulgar and indecent content and offensive in presentation or repulsive in treatment. There are also some platforms which are created only for personal attack, and some are there to promote magic remedies as well as consumption of dangerous drugs. So there are all sorts of platforms available, all sorts of mediums available. So it will be in the best interest of advertiser if they select their medium of propagation very wisely and sensitively. Then not only ASCII, beyond ASCII, we have some other code of conducts and guidelines also. And many organizations also are there which have code of conducts for the advertisers to follow. We have Prasar Bharati, All India Radio, Doordarshan, Indian Newspaper Society, which provides similar guidelines to the advertisers. Ethical guidelines are not to challenge the laws, rather they are to complement it. So both laws and ethics are there to shape the advertising industry in the best interest of the people, not to contradict each other. There are certain case studies which are very important to understand that how these things work, like where ASCII has acted, like some complaints against Prabhat Khabar, DNA and Nai Dunia. These three are newspapers, and it has been launched that they claim to be number one paper in certain different regions. And ASCII took these complaints very seriously, and they were made to explain in front of ASCII. Then we have this case of Sprite TVC, where in this ad, one particular person, two people are going into the jungle, and they are actually kidnapped by some tribals, and these tribals are looking like Africans. So the complaint was against this ad, and ASCII took the cognizance of this ad, and it actually just suggested this particular company that they cannot actually disrespect people of Africa by showing some tribals like Africans and showing them into a bad light. Similarly, there is a case of McDowell's #1 platinum CD, where ASCII suggested this particular brand that it is example of surrogate advertising, where in the garb of selling a platinum CD, they are actually promoting their whiskey brand. So these three case study can clearly say that how ASCII is actually taking actions, and it is very much required for ethical perspective of advertising. Hope this lecture was fruitful for all of you. Thank you very much. This is Archana Kumari, Assistant Professor, Department of Mass Communication and New Media, Central University of Jammu.